I've always thought of myself as a practical guy. My name's Mark, and I've been married to Lisa for 7 years. We met in college, fell in love during a chaotic semester, and really believed we were going to be that couple that didn't just make it but thrived. We built a life together in a cozy little house in the suburbs of Chicago, filled with plants I can't keep alive and furniture that we slowly picked out together, piece by piece. Those early years were magical, filled with laughter and dreams about the future. But lately, I've sensed something off. It started with the little things, a late-night text here, a sudden need for me time there. At first, I brushed it off as the normal ebb and flow of a long-term relationship. Life gets busy, right? But then, there were the clues I couldn't ignore. I remember the day it all fell apart. I was cleaning out my old phone when I stumbled across a folder of pictures. Lisa and I took countless photos together, capturing our travels, dinners, and just our day-to-day life. But as I scrolled through the images, I noticed something strange. All the photos of us together had been deleted, every single one. The only ones left were the solo shots of Lisa, smiling and carefree. It was like I never existed in those moments, like our memories were erased overnight. My stomach dropped and I felt an icy grip of dread clutching my heart. I confronted her about it later that evening. "Hey Lisa, can we talk?" I asked, trying to keep my tone light despite the turmoil bubbling inside me. She was flopped on the couch, scrolling through her phone. She looked up, feigning casual interest. "Sure, what's up?" I took a deep breath. "I noticed some of our photos are missing. You know, the ones from our trips together, our wedding. It's just odd, right?" Her face twisted in confusion or perhaps annoyance. "I don't know what you're talking about, Mark. Maybe you just didn't save them right. They can be like super glitchy." The way she said it felt rehearsed, as if she had prepped for this exact moment. I could hear the lie dripping off her words. In that moment, I felt a mixture of confusion and anger. How could she be so nonchalant? I pressed on. "Really? All of them? That just doesn't seem possible." She shifted uncomfortably, a hint of irritation now seeping through her calm facade. "I honestly don't remember, Mark. It's not a big deal. We can take more photos, right?" I felt my blood boil. "It is a big deal, Lisa. It feels like you're hiding something from me." This time she rolled her eyes, her patience clearly waning. "You're being dramatic. Chill out. We both have busy lives and I probably just cleaned up my phone. You're making it into a bigger issue than it is." I didn't push it anymore, but the doubt had settled in my heart. I was torn between believing her and the nagging feeling that something was very wrong. I couldn't shake that feeling. I began watching her more closely, picking up on behaviors that were once so familiar but now felt foreign and suspicious. It wasn't long before I started finding other clues. Messages on her phone that she quickly hid when I walked into the room, a sudden interest in her appearance, more makeup, new clothes. I felt like I was losing my grip on reality. I was spiraling down this dark hole of untrust and suspicion, and every time I confronted her, she'd deflect, making me feel like I was the one losing it. One night after she had left for a supposed dinner with friends, I couldn't help myself. I went through her phone. It was a violation, I know, but I felt like I had no choice. What I found was enough to shatter my world. Texts between her and a guy named Jake, flirty exchanges, plans to meet up, explicit messages that made my stomach churn. Each word felt like a stabbing pain, twisting deeper as I read on. My heart raced as I realized I was right all along. The signs were there, I just hadn't wanted to see them. Lisa had been cheating on me. The reality of it hit me like a freight train. I sat there, breathless and shaking. My world was crumbling and I felt powerless to stop it. I knew I had to confront her, but I also knew I needed to gather my thoughts first. I needed a plan. But before I could formulate one, a surge of anger and betrayal coursed through me. The woman I had loved, the one I thought I knew, was not who I believed her to be. I felt a storm brewing inside, one that would not rest until I had my answers and my revenge. Needless to say, everything was about to change. The confrontation was inevitable. I could feel it building up inside me, a pressure cooker about to burst. I knew I couldn't wait any longer to confront Lisa. I needed answers, and I needed her to face the truth. There was no way I was going to let her continue this charade after everything we had built together. The next day, I waited until she got home from work. My pulse was racing as I heard her pull into the driveway. I set my jaw, trying to steel myself for what was to come. The moment she stepped inside, I knew I could either keep playing the fool or finally demand the respect I deserved. "Lisa, can we talk?" I said, trying to keep my voice steady. "Sure, what's up?" She replied, tossing her keys on the kitchen counter and walking past me toward the fridge. She was acting so casual, flipping through her phone as if she hadn't just shattered my world. I took a deep breath, my heart pounding. "It's about Jake, the texts I found." Her face went pale. For a split second, I saw something shift in her eyes, panic, guilt, but she quickly masked it. "What are you talking about?" "Don't play dumb with me, Lisa. I saw the messages. I know you've been seeing him behind my back," I said, my voice rising despite my efforts to stay calm. She laughed lightly, a bitter sound that sent chills down my spine. "You're being ridiculous, Mark. I'm just friends with him. You know how people joke around. You're reading too much into this." "Joke around? Lisa, those messages were anything but friendly. You're lying to my face," I shot back, feeling a mix of anger and disbelief. "I deserve better than this. You're betraying everything we built together." For a moment, she stood there, her facade cracking. "Okay, maybe I've hung out with him a bit," she admitted, her voice lowering. "But it's not what you think. We're just having some fun. You know our marriage has been stale, stale." The word hit me like a slap. I wanted to scream, to lay out everything I felt, the time, the love, the sacrifices I made. But instead, I felt the tears prickling in my eyes. "So you thought cheating was the answer. You just decided to throw everything away." She opened her mouth, then closed it again. "It's not like that. It's complicated," she muttered, backpedaling. "You've been so distant. I just needed to feel wanted again." It was always the same old excuse. I had heard it countless times in stories about infidelity, but hearing it from her twisted my heart. "You think this is my fault?" I asked incredulously. "You think I haven't been trying? I've been working my ass off to get us back to a good place." The conversation devolved into a back and forth of blame and half-hearted apologies. She tried to paint herself as the misunderstood victim, while I felt more like the villain for wanting to save our marriage. I was furious with her, yet I couldn't shake the feeling of profound sadness. I had loved this woman, and she was throwing it all away for what? Some fleeting thrill with Jake. "Is it serious?" I finally asked, my voice barely above a whisper, afraid of the answer. Lisa hesitated, her eyes darting away from mine. I don't know," she admitted, looking more like a scared child than the confident woman I had married. "It was just supposed to be fun. I didn't mean for it to go this far." I stood there in shock, my heart breaking into a million pieces. "So you're telling me you've been cheating on me for what? Fun? And you didn't think to talk to me about how you felt?" She shrugged, her defiance slowly melting into remorse. "I didn't think you'd understand. It was just one thing after another, and I felt so alone." The deeper I delved into the conversation, the more I realized how lost we both were. My heart began to harden, the anger morphing into a cold resolve. I couldn't let her get away with this, not without consequences. I felt a surge of determination. If she was going to play with fire, then maybe it was time I burned her back. After that night, I felt like a different person. I spent hours grappling with my emotions, alternating between anger and heartbreak. But eventually, it became crystal clear. I had to take charge of my own life. I wasn't going to be the victim in this story. I began crafting my plan, but it was more than just revenge. I started thinking about what I wanted for my future. I was done being the man who sat on the sidelines while his wife made selfish choices. I wanted to reclaim my dignity and turn this painful chapter into a lesson. I'd show Lisa the consequences of her actions, not just for my sake, but for her own too. I realized that I didn't just want revenge. I wanted to expose her lies. I wanted her to see the pain she had caused, to feel it in a way that would make her reconsider her choices. I wasn't sure how I would do it, but I was ready to start laying the groundwork. I was determined to take back control. No more passivity. It was time to show Lisa what happens when you betray someone who truly loved you. The storm inside me was brewing, and I was ready to unleash it. The next few days were a blur of emotions and planning. I felt like I was in a fog, oscillating between anger and sadness, but one thing was clear. I couldn't stay in this limbo forever. I needed a strategy, a way to confront Lisa that would cut through the lies and expose the truth. I spent sleepless nights plotting, and as I did, I realized I wanted more than just revenge. I wanted to reclaim my own power in this situation. I started gathering evidence of Lisa's betrayal. I went through her phone again, meticulously noting the timestamps and details of the messages with Jake. I saved screenshots of everything: flirty exchanges, plans for secret meetups, and even intimate comments that made my heart twist with betrayal. The anger surged within me as I read through the text threads, each word solidifying my resolve to confront her. I also decided to reach out to a few friends who had gone through similar situations. Their stories helped me see how infidelity had shaped their lives and gave me insight into what steps I should take next. I needed to protect myself legally and emotionally. I began researching divorce laws, speaking to an attorney about my options, and figuring out how to navigate this mess with the least amount of fallout. Then came the night when I had my moment of clarity. Lisa came home late again, reeking of perfume and with that half-hearted excuse about work events. I could feel the tension crackling in the air as I watched her flit around the house, a false sense of normalcy covering the chaos we were in. I decided it was time to put my plan into action. "Lisa, we need to talk," I said, my voice steady but firm. She turned to me, her eyebrows knitting together. "What now, Mark? Can't we just have a peaceful evening for once?" She was at the fridge, and I could see her trying to avoid eye contact. I took a deep breath, readying myself. "No, we can't. I have something important to discuss. I know about Jake." For a moment her face went blank before a mask of defiance washed over her features. "What are you talking about?" I pulled out my phone and showed her the messages. "You think I wouldn't find out? You think I would just accept you lying to me?" Her eyes widened as she scanned the screen. I could see her scrambling for an excuse, but the truth was right there, glaring back at us in the dim kitchen light. "You hacked my phone? Seriously?" she retorted, trying to regain composure, but her voice had a tremor. "I didn't hack anything, Lisa. You left the evidence wide open. You chose to throw our life away for some cheap thrill." My anger was boiling just under the surface, but I stayed focused. "How could you do this? We had a life together." She crossed her arms, a defensive posture I had become all too familiar with. "You don't understand. I've been unhappy. You're always so focused on work, and I felt trapped. By cheating, that's your solution." I shot back, disbelief coating my words. "How is this fair to me? I've been here trying to make it work." Lisa's bravado began to falter, and I could see her emotions shift. "I didn't mean for it to get this far. It was just fun." "It was supposed to be nothing serious," she stammered, her voice cracking. "Fun?" I echoed, my heart racing. "You think cheating is fun? You think lying to your husband is just a game?" She opened her mouth to respond, but nothing came out. I could see her mind racing, trying to find the right words, but all of them felt hollow. "Let me ask you this," I continued, my voice dropping to a whisper. "Do you love him?" There was a moment of silence that felt like an eternity. Her eyes darted away, and I could tell she was torn. "I don't know," she finally admitted, her voice barely above a whisper. "It's just complicated. I don't want to lose you, but I can't keep pretending either." There it was, the truth she had been avoiding. I felt a mix of relief and heartbreak. I had finally pulled back the curtain. This was all I needed to know to make my next move. "I want you to think about what you really want, Lisa," I said, my tone softer now. "Because I won't be your backup plan. You have to choose. If you want to be with Jake, then we're done here. If you want to work on us, then we can try therapy, but I won't stay around if you're still keeping him in the picture." Lisa nodded, tears welling in her eyes. "I need time to think," she said, her voice trembling. "Time?" I echoed, frustration bubbling inside me. "How much time do you need to figure out that you can't have both?" She looked genuinely hurt now, and for a moment I felt a flicker of empathy. But then I remembered the betrayal, the lies, and the pain, and I pushed it aside. "I'll be staying with my brother for a while," I said, standing my ground. "You need to understand the weight of your actions. I'll give you space to think, but don't think I'll wait around forever." As I walked out, I could hear her sobbing softly behind me. I felt a pang of guilt, but it was overshadowed by my resolve. I couldn't let her manipulate me into being the understanding husband while she strung me along. If she wanted to play games, then I would play too, but on my terms. I knew I had to move forward, not just for her, but for me. Moving in with my brother Josh felt surreal. I thought I'd be spending this time sorting out our life together, not fleeing from it. The weight of betrayal hung over me like a dark cloud, and each passing day felt longer than the last. I kept replaying the confrontation in my mind, Lisa's tears, her excuses, the way she had avoided my gaze when I asked about Jake. The anger simmered just below the surface, but there was also a flicker of hope buried deep down. Maybe this was the turning point we needed. Josh was supportive as always. He welcomed me into his spare room with open arms and a few too many jokes about my dramatic exit. He was the kind of brother who knew how to lighten the mood, and I appreciated that, but no amount of humor could shake the heaviness in my heart. "Dude, you're not going to wallow in self-pity forever, are you?" he asked one night as we both lounged on his couch, the TV flickering in the background. "You'll get through this. You're stronger than you think." "Yeah, I know," I replied, forcing a smile. "It's just hard to process everything. I thought we were happy. I thought we'd grow old together." Josh nodded, his expression softening. "Look, it sucks, but you can't control her decisions. You can only control how you handle it. You deserve someone who values you, not someone who keeps secrets." His words stuck with me, and I found myself reflecting on everything Lisa and I had been through. I felt like a fool at times, but I also realized I needed to focus on myself. I began to prioritize my healing, spending time with friends, hitting the gym, and even enrolling in a cooking class. I wanted to reclaim my life, to be the man I used to be before the weight of betrayal dragged me down. But then came the moment that shook my resolve. It was a Friday evening, about a week after I moved out. I received a text from Lisa that sent my heart racing. "Can we talk? I've been thinking about everything, and I want to see you." I stared at the message, my heart pounding in my chest. My emotions were a whirlwind of confusion. Part of me wanted to hear her out, to see if she had truly reflected on what had happened. But the other part of me screamed to protect myself. After a long internal debate, I replied, "Fine, but we need to talk about everything. No more games." We agreed to meet at a small cafe we used to frequent. As I drove there, I felt a mix of anticipation and dread. What would she say? Would it be more lies, or had she finally come to terms with the reality of our situation? When I arrived, I spotted her sitting at a table near the back, fidgeting with her hands. She looked different, more haggard perhaps. The spark that once lit up her eyes seemed dimmed, and I wondered if she had truly felt the weight of her actions. I sat down across from her, my heart racing, and waited for her to speak. "Thanks for meeting me," she said, her voice shaky. "Let's cut to the chase," I replied, trying to maintain my composure. "You wanted to talk. What's on your mind?" "I've been doing a lot of thinking, Mark," she began, her eyes searching mine for understanding. "I know I hurt you, and I can't take that back, but I want to try to fix this. I want us to go to therapy together. I'm sorry for everything." Her words were a balm, yet they carried an undertone of desperation that unsettled me. "Do you really mean that, or are you just saying what you think I want to hear?" "I mean it," she insisted, her voice rising slightly. "I've been reflecting on our relationship, and I realize how much I took for granted. I don't want to lose you." "Then why did you cheat?" I shot back, my anger flaring again. "How can I trust you when you went behind my back?" "I messed up. I got caught up in my own insecurities," she admitted, her gaze dropping to the table. "But I'm ready to make amends. I'll do whatever it takes." I sat back in my chair, mulling over her words. It was tempting to believe her, to imagine a world where we could start fresh, but the scars she left behind were deep. I had to be honest with myself about what I wanted. "Look, Lisa," I said slowly, weighing each word. "I want to believe you, I really do, but I can't just jump back in without knowing you're serious. Trust doesn't just come back overnight. I need time to think." Her face fell, and I could see the fear flicker in her eyes. "I understand. Just know that I'm committed to making this work." We talked more that day, and I allowed myself to entertain the idea of us working through this mess. But I couldn't shake the feeling that something was still off. The tension lingered in the air, a reminder that our past would always haunt us. As I drove back to Josh's place, my mind raced with questions. I wanted to believe in the possibility of rebuilding our relationship, but a part of me wondered if I could really trust her again. A week passed, and I kept thinking about our conversation. I started attending therapy on my own, trying to untangle my emotions and gain clarity. My therapist encouraged me to focus on what I needed and what would make me happy moving forward. The more I dug into my feelings, the more I realized that while I still loved Lisa, I wasn't sure I could forgive her. I didn't want to be her safety net, her backup plan. I deserved someone who valued me completely, and then came the next blow. One evening, as I was scrolling through social media, I saw a post from Lisa, a photo of her and Jake together, smiling and looking blissfully happy, a punch to the gut. It felt like the world fell out from beneath me. She hadn't just been lying, she was actively continuing the affair. The betrayal felt like a fresh wound bursting open. I was done. I couldn't keep allowing her to toy with my heart. I knew what I had to do. There would be no more second chances. It was time for me to reclaim my life, to cut the ties that bound me to someone who didn't value me. I would confront her one last time, but this time it would be different. This time I wouldn't just be heartbroken. This time I would show her the consequences of her actions. I felt an unshakable resolve as I prepared for the confrontation with Lisa. I had seen enough. The social media post with Jake was the final straw. It brought back all the pain, the anger, and the betrayal. If she thought she could keep me hanging on while simultaneously flaunting her infidelity, she was mistaken. I was done being the one left in the shadows. I reached out to Lisa and asked her to meet me at the same cafe where we had our last heart-to-heart. I wanted to confront her face to face, to put everything out in the open. I needed her to understand that I wasn't going to be a doormat any longer. As I arrived, I could see her waiting at a table. She looked somewhat anxious, biting her lip and glancing around as if anticipating something. I walked in, my heart steady and calm despite the storm of emotions swirling beneath the surface. "Thanks for meeting me," I said, taking a seat. "Of course," she replied, her voice slightly shaky. "I've missed you. I thought we were starting to move forward." "Missing me doesn't cut it, Lisa. I saw your post with Jake. You're still seeing him, aren't you?" I stated, keeping my voice low but firm. Her eyes widened in shock, and for a fleeting moment I saw genuine fear. "Mark, I can explain." She stammered, her hands fidgeting nervously. "I just wanted to show the world I was having fun, to break free from the sadness." "Fun?" I echoed, incredulity washing over me. "You think it fun to flaunt your betrayal, to rub it in my face? This is beyond hurtful, it's cruel. I didn't think it would hurt you this much," she insisted, her voice rising in desperation. "It was a mistake, Mark. I thought we were working through our issues." "No, Lisa, you thought you could have your cake and eat it too. You're not even pretending to be sorry anymore." My heart raced as I spoke, the anger surging through me like a tidal wave. "You're still choosing him over me. You're still lying to yourself." "I'm sorry," she almost shouted, her voice cracking. "I'm so confused, I don't know what I want." "Then you need to figure it out, and it can't involve me," I said, my voice steady. "I'm not here to be your second choice. I'm not going to wait around while you figure out what you want. I'm done." The words hung in the air, heavy and final. I watched as the realization sank in. She looked deflated, her bravado crumbling. "You don't mean that," she whispered, tears welling in her eyes. "I do mean it," I replied, my heart aching. "I deserve better than this. I deserve someone who values me, who will fight for our relationship, not someone who plays games. I can't keep going through this cycle of betrayal. I need to prioritize myself." She looked away, her shoulders slumping. "I made a mistake, Mark. And I know I can change, it's just going to take time." "Time that you're spending with Jake," I countered. "That's not fair to me. You're still actively making a choice, and I can't be a part of this anymore." "I'll end it with him," she said, almost pleadingly. "Just give me another chance. I promise I can make it right." "I don't believe you," I replied, my voice firm. "You've had your chances, Lisa. It's time for both of us to move on." I stood up, feeling empowered despite the swirling emotions inside me. I had made the decision to reclaim my life. "I'll always care about you, but I can't be your emotional crutch. I need to focus on healing. This is goodbye." As I turned to leave, I heard her call my name softly. "Mark, please," but I didn't look back. I knew that any lingering feelings I had could not overshadow the truth of what she had done. I stepped outside, the cool air hitting my face, and I felt a mix of relief and sadness wash over me. I had finally chosen myself. The next few days were a blur of emotions. I felt lighter, yet grief still clung to me like a shadow. I leaned heavily on Josh, who provided the support and distraction I needed. "You did the right thing, man," he told me one evening as we sat on his couch, a bottle of whiskey between us. "You deserve to be with someone who's all in." "Yeah, but it hurts," I admitted, staring into my glass. "I keep thinking about the good times we had, the plans we made. I don't know if I'll ever fully get over this." "It's okay to hurt," Josh said, his tone soothing. "But remember, you're building a new life now. Take it one day at a time." And that's what I did. I focused on myself. I threw myself into work, started taking long runs, and made it a priority to reconnect with friends I had lost touch with. I even picked up new hobbies like painting and writing, finding solace in creativity. But the emotional scars remained, and I learned to navigate them. I began to understand more about myself, what I wanted from life, and what I wouldn't tolerate in relationships. I also realized that while the experience left me broken, it also made me stronger. I would carry the lessons I learned into the next chapter of my life. I wouldn't let this define me. Instead, I would let it shape me into someone more resilient. And as the weeks passed, I started to envision my future. I could see a life where I was happy again, thriving and free. I was finally ready to let go of the past and embrace whatever came next. Life was waiting for me, and I was determined to seize it. But there was one last piece of unfinished business that needed to be addressed. I had to confront Lisa one final time, not for her sake but for mine. I needed closure, and I needed to make sure she understood the consequences of her actions. I decided to do it in a way that would make a lasting impression, a way that would ensure I wouldn't be forgotten. I texted Lisa, asking her to meet me one last time, this time at a park where we used to stroll together. The irony wasn't lost on me. It had been a place of shared laughter and dreams, and I wanted to reclaim it. I needed to close this chapter of my life definitively, and I wanted her to understand the weight of her choices. The sun was shining down as I waited on a bench, feeling a mixture of anxiety and determination. I was ready to be firm and resolute, to ensure she understood how her actions had affected me. When I saw her approaching, I noticed the way she hesitated, almost as if she was unsure whether to come forward. "Hey," I said, my voice steady but soft enough to convey that this wasn't going to be a confrontation where I lost my cool. "Hey," she replied, her eyes darting to the ground. I could see the lingering hurt in her expression, and for a moment I felt a flicker of empathy, but I quickly stamped it out. "I wanted to meet here because this place used to mean something to us," I began, taking a deep breath. "I wanted to reclaim it for myself. I wanted to show you that I'm moving on." Her eyes widened slightly, and I continued. "I've spent a lot of time reflecting on everything. I thought we had something special, and you threw it away for a fleeting thrill. That hurts more than I can explain." "I know," she said, her voice tinged with regret. "I messed up, Mark. I've been thinking about everything and how it all spiraled out of control." "Thinking is one thing, taking action is another," I replied, keeping my tone steady. "You chose to betray my trust, and while I understand we all make mistakes, your continued relationship with Jake after that shows you weren't serious about fixing things." "No, I wasn't," she admitted, her voice barely a whisper. "I was scared and confused. I thought I could find happiness elsewhere." "True. Happiness doesn't come from avoiding your problems. It comes from facing them head-on and working through the mess," I said, my heart pounding. "You had a choice, Lisa. You chose to run away. That's why I can't keep you in my life." She looked up at me then, her eyes glistening with tears. "I didn't mean to hurt you. I just found myself in a difficult place." "I get that. We all have our struggles," I replied, feeling the weight of my own journey. "But what's important is how we deal with those struggles. You chose betrayal. I can't build a future with someone who can't be honest with themselves, let alone with me." "Please don't say it like that," she pleaded, her voice breaking. "I don't want to lose you completely. I want to make things right." "It's too late for that, Lisa," I said, my voice firm. "This isn't about me holding a grudge. It's about recognizing the reality of what you chose. You've lost my trust, and rebuilding that is something I can't do while you're still entangled with someone else." She fell silent, her expression a mix of sorrow and regret. I could see the realization dawning on her. This wasn't just a goodbye, it was a reckoning. "What can I do to make it better?" she finally asked, her voice small. Focus on yourself, I replied, the words coming from a place of understanding, albeit mixed with firmness. Work on being honest with yourself and others. Take the time to reflect on your choices. I hope you find clarity because I won't be in your life to guide you anymore. But I care about you, she said, her voice trembling. I thought we could figure this out together. I shook my head, feeling a rush of sadness for the memories we shared, but also a strong conviction that this was right. You had your chance, but you chose to hurt me instead. I hope you find happiness, but it won't be with me. I need to move forward. With that, I turned to leave, feeling a deep sense of relief wash over me. I had finally said everything I needed to say, and I felt lighter with each step I took away from her. I wasn't just walking away from Lisa. I was walking toward my own future. As I drove home, I felt a newfound sense of freedom. I had reclaimed my life, my strength, and my dignity. The road ahead was uncertain, but it was mine to navigate. I was ready to embrace whatever lay ahead, open to new possibilities without the shadows of betrayal lingering over me. In the days that followed, I continued to focus on my healing journey. I took up mindfulness practices, signed up for workshops that piqued my interest, and even began dating again. I learned to navigate my emotions, understanding that it was okay to feel hurt but also okay to feel joy again. I was slowly transforming the pain into strength, and with each passing day, the weight of the past became lighter. I realized that what had happened with Lisa didn't define me. It was simply a part of my story. Looking back, I understood that the betrayal had opened up a path for growth and self-discovery. It had forced me to confront my own insecurities and desires. I had emerged from the darkness into the light, stronger and more resilient than I had ever been. And as I stepped into this new chapter of my life, I did so with a sense of hope and determination. I was ready to embrace love again, but this time I would do so with my eyes wide open. I would choose someone who respected me, who valued our relationship, and who would stand beside me, not behind my back. In the end, I learned that sometimes breaking away is the only way to truly find yourself. And now, I was ready for whatever came next.